And welcome along to the Sports Fix for today. And something special, folks. I've managed to corral two very esteemed, highly knowledgeable sporting gurus. No, it's not them. It's actually the Flowman and the Statman. So I was building everyone up, and sorry for letting you down. But no, I haven't. I've got the two gentlemen in here because there's a very important topic we need to sort of just have a conversation about. On the back of Brain Awareness Week, there is an issue that's been affecting, we've seen it affecting football players. It's been in the news a fair bit of late. And chronic traumatic encephalopathy. It is a mouthful. CTE is what they're calling it, but it's now becoming very more prevalent with players retiring early. It's causing massive issues within families. And it's not just affecting the sports that we love, like football. It's also into other sports. There is even, as I was told earlier today, that Soccer Australia is looking at, for young kids, no headers. You cannot head the ball. Which when I was a 10-year-old kid and couldn't head the ball, it was like, what? Oh, that's what we do because I was good at it. But it's now changed now because the brains in our heads are so more important. So I thought I'd just get you guys in to have a bit of a thought and a conversation about it. So I'll start with you, Wayne. Your thoughts on CTE and its impact, not just on AFL, but right down to the juniors. Should we even have all kids wearing helmets for all sports?
We've been told that the helmet that we have available, which is that rubber type one, which was the old bike-looking helmet, which they now don't use for cycling, but any helmet that is used doesn't actually protect the brain from this ricocheting effect or the plasticine effect of the brain when it actually hits the side of the skull, and that's what causes either these bleeds or the concussion injuries, and the danger of those is seen at a greater level when we start to consider the higher speed of collision or contact. So if you go back a number of years, if we just talk AFL here, not heading a soccer ball, but back years ago we still have injuries, and we've seen the brains of, I think, was it Polypharma, and more recently there's been a study that has been done on American gridiron footballers that they've clearly been able to associate this CTE with collisions involved in their sporting careers. But the game of AFL has sped up considerably in the last 20 years. If you even watch the 1989 grand final with Gary Ablett Sr. kicking 9 goals, it was a brilliant, fast game of football. The state games of the yesteryear, great fast games of football, some big hits, some big collisions. What we now know is that those hits and collisions, when a player is concussed, do cause the longer-term effect of CTE. So sporting codes everywhere are rushing to put in concussion protocols, which we've now seen in peak sports like the AFL, but also are rushing to impede the contact that happens between two players front on. In particular, if we look at the Patrick Dangerfield incident on the weekend with Jake Kelly, and the fact that Patrick Dangerfield has no hope at all of surviving that at a tribunal, because there is no way of getting out of that if you are serious about CTE, and I believe the AFL will be more serious about CTE than Jake Kelly's inability to actually handball the ball away and then turn his body when he saw a player coming at him. And we talked about this with the women's football again. I mean, Jake left himself open completely for that. Now, I'm not condoning whether Dangerfield did the right thing, but looking at it, if you go back, say, 10, 15 years to football, there's no way in the world that Dangerfield's incident would have even been looked at. It would have been an unfortunate collision, two heads colliding. But watch it now. It's going to simply change the whole nature of how they make a decision about a head injury. And CTE has clearly done that, and for good reason, but we're going to have to change the style and the way we play the game.
Chase?
Well, first of all, when you called him Wayne, I was looking over his shoulder, figuring someone else was coming. I'd forgotten
it was a serious
that was
topic,
his
so
name.
I just wanted to treat it seriously.
Fair enough. Well, I won't make light any more of those sort of things, Wayne. What I will say is CTE is serious. Look, it's legit. We know it exists. It's proven. It is a scientific fact. So for those out there, and I know that there are some denialists still getting around on social media about, oh, it's all nonsense and how can anybody know this? Well, it's been scientifically proven. I think we all understand now that concussions over a period of time can lead to this sort of thing. We've seen it in boxers. Muhammad Ali is the famous case there. Not that we ever got to see his brain donated to science, but we know others have. We know gridiron players, as you mentioned before, have. Most recently, Shane Tuck, who tragically took his own life. His brain was donated to science and was found to be that of a 65-year-old man. So John Platten is another classic example, the
Yes.
rat. He's really struggling in his latter life in terms of being able to have proper cognitive function. So, and this has been going on for many, many years, Clayton. So, look, the whole thing is simple as this, I think. When it comes to collisions in the AFL, and you get back to the Dangerfield situation, if you choose to make contact and the opponent's head suffers any damage whatsoever, you will be culpable.
Yep.
And in Dangerfield's case, he chose to bump. There was a head clash. It was an accident. Nobody's saying Dangerfield did it on purpose. The reality is now, if you choose to make contact with an opponent in any way, shape or form, if that opponent's head becomes into contact with the ground and there's a concussion involved, you'll spend time on the sidelines. The AFL have said that. That's what's going to be.
What about for junior sports?
For junior sports...
Because that's really the key. In the rural areas we're in, it's all about the kids' sports.
This is where it gets tricky because you're dealing, at grassroots level in particular, you're dealing with volunteers, volunteer umpires, volunteer coaches, volunteer
Trainers.
and the like as well. And certainly a reduced level of resources. So whatever it is that you do, I mean, if you're going to make soccer players wear helmets, which won't work anyway, as Flowman correctly pointed out, when it comes to concussions, it's been proven that helmets don't help the equation, whatever.
Gridiron players, proof of that.
Yeah. So
Ice hockey
the brain
players
still
too,
bounces around inside that skull, and that's what creates the concussion. So, look, in terms of the world game, football, where they might say you can't header the ball until you're 15 or 16, that's not uncommon. Baseball's a sport we love, Clayton.
Yep.
Once upon a time, there was talk that while a kid's body was developing, he wasn't allowed to throw curveballs. A legitimate part of the game while his arm was developing. So I could see that being something that would be brought into the world game. Makes perfect sense to me. In football, I can see us going down the path, and when I say football, sorry, I'm talking about AFL.
Yep.
I can see us going down the path of no tackling, like we do in the little under 10 grades, under those sort of grades, maybe for a little bit longer until they hit under 14, perhaps. And they've got to be taught how to tackle properly. I think that's nowadays you have to tackle with care. Once upon a time it was tackle to hurt.
Yeah.
Now you have to tackle with care.
That's how I was taught. Yeah.
And riding the bump too, and I think I want to go back to Jake Kelly's incident because it's the one that's been shown on the TV, and you'll see it again tonight, and you'll see it right through the week until it's done. But there is a way where footballers, when you're a junior footballer, you're taught to, as you release the ball, to turn your body at an oncoming player. And he would have seen, he actually held the ball longer when he saw Dangerfield coming at him. He actually did take an extra step with it. He must have thought Dangerfield was going to tackle me, and that's why he took that extra step. And then he handballs it, thinking he's going to get rid of the ball before Dangerfield tackles him. So therefore, if Dangerfield tackles him, it'll be holding the man. If not, Dangerfield then goes for a bump. He's now got to protect himself from it. He's got to believe then at that point that he's going to be bumped rather than tackled. And that's the problem. If you take the bump out of the game, then you say to the player who's now in the case where Jake Kelly was, hey, I'm only going to be tackled here, so therefore I can ride this tackle. But can he ride the bump? He has to turn his body towards that oncoming player.
Well, the issue I have now is where's the end point here? Because one of the great features of AFL football is the high mark. Now, the high mark at the moment is the one legitimate place someone who is wide open can wear a knee in the back of the head and be concussed seriously, and there be no repercussion on the person that does it. Are we at a situation where we need to have a look at the high mark as something that needs to be outlawed from the game? And I mean, can you imagine the furor if the high mark in AFL football was ruled illegal? I mean, I can't even begin to think of the consequences of that.
No.
At what point do we say it's a contact sport, you're playing it at your own risk? Yes, there are absolute issues, and if you suffer a certain number of concussions, your career may well be over at a young age. How do we go about mitigating the situation with CTE? Because CTE can, we believe, can arise from as little as one concussion. One serious concussion.
That's what they're still trying to determine.
How many concussions is enough? Well, there's still so much we don't know. There's a lot we do know, but there's still so much we don't know. I don't know where the end game is here. I don't know where the line is drawn. And I don't know what footballs, plural, many different codes of it, are going to look like in the future as a result. I mean, we have to do the right thing. We have to protect people. But at the end of the day, are we going to lose the soul of these sports along the way? And is that a problem if we do? I'm not sure. I don't have the answers. I'm just putting that out there as a discussion topic.
And are we going to see parents then saying, well, I don't want my daughter or son playing a contact sport. I want them to go to golf or tennis or sports table tennis that are not renowned for head contacts.
I'm yet to suffer a concussion from table tennis. I can clarify that.
That was included when you hit the table.
Although I have been knocked stupid on several occasions. I want to put that out there too. Yeah.
We have to get you out from under the table most times. But anyway, we won't go into that after table tennis. But here on Flow, it's always great to talk about these topics on the Sports Fix, Clayton. And this is what it's about. And we hope to do this more often.
We certainly do. And if anything we've raised has created an issue with you and you'd like to know someone to speak to about it, then remember the lifeline number 13 11 14. It's the number to call, 13 11 14.